And there it is. Officially, we are back. Officially. Welcome, everyone, to Man Cave Mondays. It has been a long time since I've been here on this program. It is great to be with you all. This is a conversation that has been long overdue. As you could see with the graphic, we're going to be discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm excited. This is the conversation that launched this entire show. So I'm really thrilled. All of us have now finally watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. Some of us may have seen it more than once. And we're going to be discussing all aspects of it. Was it necessary? Was it better than the original? Was it worse? Were there things we loved? Were there things we hated? Were there things that still didn't quite work? And was it even, did I say necessary? I did say that. Was it necessary? That's going to be a big question, I think, for this discussion. So first off, our friend Christian is in the house. Howdy, sir.
Hello. How's it going?
How are you?
Oh, you know what? Keeping on.
Keeping on. Yeah. And we've got Sideshow Bobby in the house.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Rocking
I'm the
the
podcaster you need, not essentially that you want.
That's there you go. The one that we need, but not necessarily the one we deserve. Is that
if everyone, that's what I was trying to go for.
Yeah, that's what you're going
people
for.
People who are going to listen to, who are listening in and not watching, I am wearing a Batman mask.
And the background behind him is straight up
the
the Batcave.
That's right.
Which one is that? Is that from one of the? That's clearly one of the games. Is that?
Yeah, it's one of the Arkham games. Yeah.
I was going to say it's either Arkham or Injustice. I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
so,
I want to say it's Arkham.
Yeah,
and I'm sporting a Justice. Of course, the green screen's messing thing up, but I got a funky.
You got like Justice it's Justice League because it's splitting up all the major. You got
the major ones, but it doesn't have Wonder Woman
Batman, on it. Wonder Woman. Yeah. I was going to ask, is Wonder Woman there? But
just Flash, Green Lantern.
Who got on mine? Who got on
Green Lantern? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
four.
Christian, you've got the same deal. Like Wonder Woman's not there. What's the deal?
Batman, Flash, Green Lantern.
Wonder Woman was like
Superman.
The one of the top three. You got Batman, you got Superman, you got Wonder Woman. That's like
just part of the whole Trinity.
Trifecta, the trifecta of the Justice League. So I don't
the Trinity.
I don't know how that isn't there, but whatever. I mean, okay. And then last but not least, my brother Andrew.
Wait, I thought we were talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's with the shirt, dude? Are you just trolling right now? What is the deal?
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Ooh,
clearly.
I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Nice dig. I like that, Christian.
Why
Star Wars? Do you not have anything DC related at all?
I do not have anything DC related.
That's a party foul, dude.
Okay, well, you should have sent me something.
Hey, you know what? Never mind. I was going to say it's Star Wars, which is owned by but that's a different company. Even. Representing the opposition.
Yeah, this is on Daniel. Daniel, if he was that big of a Snyder fan, he would have sent me a shirt.
No, see, here's what happens. He waits for me to get agitated with the fact that he's not up to date on all the cool stuff going on.
We're going to talk about
particularly video games and whatnot, and waits for me to buy it for him. That's
no. We're going to talk about VR at the end of this episode, the fact that I was the one to get you into VR.
Getting me into it, but now who's the one who's funding all of your VR habit?
No. I've been buying plenty of VR games.
ladies, you're both pretty. We can.
I know I'm not pretty.
Hey Bobby, can you do me a favor?
I have a face for radio.
Yes.
Can you just give me one "Where's Rachel" in your best Batman voice?
Where's Rachel?
Perfect.
Where's Rachel?
Perfect.
Oh, two of them.
He gave you two of them.
All right, what's everyone drinking right now? I have a gin and tonic.
I got Bud Light Orange.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Summer Shandy.
I'm rocking my old man beer tonight. My old man beer.
Hey, you know what? It gets the job done.
Get that MGD going. There you go.
So I'm the only one with a cocktail.
Yeah. That's all right.
Sorry, a what tail?
Oh,
Yeah.
So. All right. So
let's get started. Justice League. What happened?
What happened?
Dan, why don't you explain what was this? What happened and why did we see this on HBO Max?
Daniel, this has been many, many years in the making. So this is a night for Daniel.
Yeah, we're all
right, have a great night, everybody. I'll just talk to everybody.
We're just talking.
What do you want to know? You all saw it.
So
start from the beginning,
spoilers coming if anybody hasn't seen this yet. This is definitely a spoiler talk.
Start from the beginning. Start from when I didn't even know anything about Justice League and you were talking about it.
So tell everyone tell people who don't have no idea what's happening.
The original movie that came out in theaters
in 2017.
2017. Now affectionately, that was tongue in cheek, known as Justice League.
Who originally directed it?
I'm getting there, dude. Come on now. Come on. You're asking me all these. You're getting ahead of me, dude.
Don't backseat question
him. Called Justice League because over 80% of what we saw in theaters in 2017 was actually reshoots by Joss Whedon. Zack Snyder had cut the first trailer for the Justice League, and then
for the theatrical version.
Okay.
He cut the first trailer. He was 75% of the way through filming.
He was like over 90% done filming.
Okay.
They were like all of the footage had already been shot. They were just dealing with special effects, post-production, all of that sort of stuff. So,
I did not realize that was the case. I thought that it was Josh Whedon did his thing, and then Zack Snyder had a different view, and he went and reshot things.
No. Zack Snyder had essentially had his movie all but finished.
Okay.
And then family tragedy.
His daughter dies. She passed away from suicide, which is part of what we'll get around to later, why the release the Snyder Cut movement grabbed a hold of that cause as fuel for why they wanted to continue to push for this. And I think that actually fueled a lot of why it stuck. Because it grew into something that was much bigger than, hey, this movie sucked, redo it.
Right. It was something that was much different than just a director's cut. It would have been completely different if it had been just disputes with the studio and he stepped down and somebody else came in.
Right. Yeah. And even then, Christian, I feel like there's also aspects of the Release the Snyder Cut movement that came in and said studios need to quit dicking around with directors' visions.
True.
And so there was another angle of the movement where the reason why it was so large and persistent was you had people who were like, no, there's a real cause here for suicide awareness and prevention. There's also hey, studios, stop messing with directors and their vision, kind of coming together, particularly with the idea that, you see what happened with Star Wars and all of that stuff, right? Like studios come in and they think by committee they're going to make a better or best movie or whatever instead of just letting directors make what they want.
Right.
So
exactly.
Hold on. So what was it about Star Wars that was not good?
Nope, different episode.
No. Another episode. Let's just keep going.
We need like a red light and a button. Or anytime a troll shows up.
No. That's like another conversation.
Troll alert.
All right, fine.
Let's not go there.
The guy with the
Let
Star
it go
Wars t-shirt. So there's those two sides that came into it, and then there was the other side of it where there was DC fans that also were like, this really sucks. If Zack Snyder's actual movie was better, we would like to see that. And then on top of that, you also had the Zack Snyder fans who aren't necessarily DC fans,
right?
Who knew from the very first scene, like the very first shot in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Every Zack Snyder fan was like, this is not Zack Snyder's movie.
No.
From the very first second the movie started, everybody who was a Zack Snyder fan knew that it wasn't his movie. So you have all of these different camps essentially all coming together for the same cause of going, no, we need to see this movie.
Okay.
We need to see it. We need to see it because suicide prevention is a real major issue, and we're going to use this to bring more attention to it and raise money for it. Then you got the artistic integrity, and directors need to be able to fully present their vision. And then you got the, wow, I love DC and this really sucked, do better. And then you've got the, I love Zack Snyder, this wasn't a Zack Snyder movie, I don't care whose name is on the credit, like all of that coming together. So
well, it's also that all, and I think the big release the Snyder Cut movement also kind of sparked after seeing that it was just another one in a long line of studio interference.
Right.
Because you had Suicide Squad that was marred with studio interference. You had Aquaman that was marred with studio interference. Justice League, like you had multiple movies in a row.
All these attempts,
right. You had the Flash movie that could never get off the ground.
Right, and then all of that, and it continues to be persistent because they're buying, like they're legitimately raising money. They're raising tons of money to push for a presence that Warner Brothers is not able to ignore. And half the money that they're raising is going towards suicide prevention. Like it's pretty amazing to be able to, and that's the really smart thing. If all the Star Wars all the Star Wars sequel haters are out there, want to take notes on how to do this right, tie every complaint you have and every dollar raised of why you're trying to fight for, whatever vision you want, tie it to a amazing cause that nobody is going to think twice about trying to come after you for, because at the very least you're raising money for an amazing cause.
Right.
I also throw in, they're also trying to promote their new streaming service, HBO Max.
That we haven't gotten there yet, Bobby. You're jumping ahead again, dude. We haven't even gotten there yet. Dude.
I thought you were there.
We haven't even gotten there. No. Right. So all of this to say the movement's growing. Suddenly hashtag release the Snyder Cut is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And Zack Snyder himself is taking notice of the fact that people are not only not letting this go, but they're actually raising money for something that is inspiring.
Right. And then
so
he took it to his own
Vero, right? So on Vero, which is the only major avenue that he was communicating to anybody for the longest time, he started putting in pictures and little teasers and little in only the way that Zack Snyder himself knows how to do in nearly every movie that he has. There's a deeper meaning to everything. So he'll post a picture and leave a quote underneath that has to deal with King Arthur, or he'll leave a picture that was not in the theatrical cut. Like all of this stuff is like, wait a minute, that looks like a finished shot. Was that from the, and everybody starts going, okay, how finished is this movie? Right. And then everybody that's a hater going, nah, this is no director's cut is even worth the time. The studio's not going to spend their money on this. It's pointless. And everybody going, it doesn't exist. Stop. Everybody just needs to shut their mouth. The Snyder Cut doesn't exist. And then finally, it all culminates to one post from Zack officially with the reel of footage and saying, does it exist? Of course it does. Here it is. And everybody was like, oh, snap. Zack Snyder himself just officially announced the fact that this movie is a thing. It does
because that was the thing for the longest time, was it was always this battle between the release the Snyder Cut fans who were saying this movie exists. It exists. It's not just about having them redo it. It's about releasing what exists. And the other side were saying there's no way it was done. There's no way he had completed.
And then even amongst those who are saying, yes, it does exist, there was continual debate amongst that crowd of
how much exists.
How finished is this thing?
Right.
So all of that is happening. And then everybody starts debating about, okay, how finished is it if it actually exists? You've got people like Collider Movies, which had a lot of Zack Snyder deniers and haters and all that sort of stuff, all saying this movie is not finished. Why is Zack Snyder doing this? He is ruining his career. He needs to shut up and move on. There's no reason why Warner Brothers is going to pull the trigger on this. It's not going to happen.
Which they're not
going to retcon the official theatrical release. Never going to happen, especially if there's too much money to have to pour into this thing to actually finish it. It's not going to happen.
Right. Which I will say, to be fair, technically, it wasn't finished. So, technically most people were
correct.
It wasn't. There was not he would not have been able to just release by himself without additional
they had to do reshooting, right?
They did.
They reshot.
Well, no. So here's let me clarify. Let me clarify. The Zack Snyder's Justice League expert here. They didn't reshoot
additional photography,
anything. The majority, like I said, nearly every shot that was filmed was finished. The majority of the shots that they did were the very end of it, the nightmare sequence with the Joker. That was never originally part of his movie. And you can kind of tell when you see it. It's kind of like tagged on at the end, and you can tell it's not quite, doesn't quite fit, but it also, you get it.
It's almost I know I'm never going to get to make my sequels. Here's a hint at what I was planning on doing.
Right. And apparently the sequences with Martian Manhunter at the end, with him showing up and talking with Bruce Wayne, was originally intended to be actually the Green Lantern, was the plan.
Really?
So
both of them, actually.
Right. And the look of Steppenwolf had to be completely finished in every CGI shot to match the ultimate version of Batman v Superman, where he shows up at the end. So the majority of the work that had to be done to finish this thing, there was some film that was shot. There were some scenes that were shot, not a ton. And there was a lot of recording and voiceover work that was redone so that certain things could mesh together well. They had to re-establish and color correct Superman's suit so that it was black instead of the color one that was in the theater. There was a lot that went into it for sure, but the major thing that pushed this thing into the deep end was two things. One, AT&T bought out WB.
Yeah,
that was a major component to that. Major component. And with that, they were trying to compete, as Bobby was alluding to, with Disney Plus and all the, Netflix and all of that. And so they started establishing HBO Plus, or HBO Max, HBO Max as a contender to all of that. And they really didn't have a lot to attract people to it or get anybody excited about it or get any buzz going. Like, The Mandalorian and, all of the Marvel stuff that's coming to all of that stuff. So
they needed a heavy hitter.
They needed something. And on top of that, you also then, after Zack Snyder announced officially it was a thing, there was a 1 year, maybe it was 2 year anniversary of when the Justice League came out.
It was the 2 year.
No. This is what it was. It was the 1 year. I think it was the 1 year anniversary of when part 2 of the Justice League, the sequel, would have been released, because all of those dates had been announced and all of that stuff. So the Zack Snyder released the Snyder Cut movement rallied around that date to say we are going to just blitz the hell out of Twitter and every other social media that we can, dump a bunch of money into it and make it a big deal. And Zack and Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck and like everybody except for Henry Cavill, actually, all jumped on. A lot of people who were a part of the original crew, the producers, the original musician, Junkie XL, like everybody jumped in on that, and it just like exploded. It's trending around the whole globe, right? So that was a big enough, I think, movement to recognize in front of AT&T to be like, okay, there's something here. Warner Brothers, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And WB had already, but at this point it's like, okay, Joker came out. That was a huge success. They've already announced that the new Batman movie is going to be coming out. And it's not going to be Ben Affleck. Like there's lots of stuff that's already kind of in the works. And some of the people at Warner Brothers are still like, Zack Snyder's DC universe, nobody wants it. We're not going to do anything.
Well, because that was also like, as this was all picking up steam, was right around the same time that Ben Affleck had his falling out with Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Because they kept trying to butt in on his Batman movie vision that he wanted.
He'd stepped away from that project and all of that sort of stuff. And then officially the Zack Snyder was streaming, because he was doing these things on Vero where he would do a collective commentary for everybody,
like a watch along almost,
right? Like, hey, I'm going to show this shot, like this frame on my screen. Everybody, go ahead and get your movie ready, and then everybody hits play at the same time, and then he gives exclusive commentary live while everybody's watching it with him. He did that for Man of Steel. He did that for Batman v Superman. Or no, he didn't do it for Man of Steel. He did it for Batman v Superman, and it was such a huge deal that he did it with with Man of Steel as well. And Henry Cavill ended up showing up, and they both took questions from a bunch of fans. And then the final question was, Zack, when are we going to get to see the Snyder Cut of the Justice League? And that's when he officially showed the picture that you're looking at here, or something similar to it, which was Zack Snyder's Justice League officially streaming and coming to HBO in 2021. So then the internet blew up with that, and all of the naysayers were going, oh, really? And then all the people like me were going, yeah, that's right. Suck it. It's a real thing. It's actually happening. And it's coming to HBO Max. And the fact that it was going to HBO Max is a huge indication of the fact that that was like the perfect timing for this sort of thing to come around. I don't think you would have ever seen his movie, his version of Justice League, come to fruition without HBO Max. I don't think that would ever happen.
Yeah. Well, this is what I want to ask is, how much has COVID had something to do with making this actually happen?
I don't know that COVID necessarily made it happen, because a lot of this stuff was already in the works and announced and officialized before COVID hit.
Okay.
But I think WB, like Warner Brothers Pictures,
like just the reality that like theaters are not a thing anymore.
Right. This is where, like, okay, AT&T is the one who's really calling the shots. And
here's what I kind of think.
When they announced that all of those movies are going to be going to HBO Max as well as in the theaters, that was Warner Brothers Pictures. That was not Warner Brothers Pictures' decision.
Okay.
That was AT&T.
Well, yeah, and the fact that all of those other theater movies were on HBO Max as well this year, I think really helped. I think if all of these major theatrical releases had come out in theaters and then HBO Max got Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think it really would have been kind of this weird disparity as far as like importance goes. But I think the fact that so far this year, all of these major movies have been being released on HBO Max,
it definitely puts it at the same level for sure.
Right. It doesn't make it feel like an afterthought.
Right. As much as people hated Wonder Woman 1984, the fact that released on HBO Max day one, and you've also got Godzilla, and you've got Mortal Kombat coming out, and now Zack Snyder's Justice League is on the same platform. Like, it's a big deal. It gave
it a sense of legitimacy.
It did give it more legitimacy for sure.
Right.
So
I am subscribing to HBO Max, and I am keeping it because it has Sesame Street. To be honest with you, keeps my 2-year-old.
Hey, whatever. There you go.
But also, how many people do you think subscribe to HBO Max because of Justice League, Zack Snyder,
and that's the thing, we'll
Kong
never
versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong? Like,
a lot of them.
I know that half of us subscribed to it because they wanted to watch the Justice League's Snyder Cut.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. I know you're a numbers guy, Bobby. I don't know if you managed to see this at any point and happened to grab it.
No, not yet. But if you want me to give me a couple minutes while you guys are talking, I can.
Yeah, so if you could pull up, there was a post that got posted somewhere. I forget where I saw it. I'm sure you could find it, showing the comparisons of like streams between Godzilla, Kong, Wonder Woman 84, and Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Give me a couple minutes. Let me see.
Yeah, take your time. We'll jump.
So
we'll
you guys keep talking around. So
yeah. So it came out.
Yeah, it came out.
It was
right.
Now, Andrew, you never
and a black and white version too, which is kind of cool. I wasn't.
Yeah, Andrew, you never saw the theatrical Justice League until right before you watched this one, right?
And I intentionally watched the director's cut of Man of Steel, is there a director's cut of Man of Steel?
No, there's only one version of Man of Steel.
I watched Man of Steel, and then I watched the director's cut of
the Ultimate
Superman
Edition
versus Batman.
Mm-hmm.
intentionally to like prepare myself, because when I was reaching out to you guys, I was like, I've watched those 2 movies, but I should probably get caught up.
Yeah.
And so I watched,
especially if you had never seen the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman. There's definitely more connections from that in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Sure.
So
it's a huge difference.
So I watched that, and then I watched the theatrical version of Justice League, which everyone was like, I don't know, maybe you should just go straight to the Snyder Cut. But I was like, I've got the time. I want to know.
I think you made the right choice.
Like, I was like, I want to know the reason and the importance behind why we need a Snyder's Cut.
Yeah.
And so
that's a big part of it right there.
Really, really glad that I watched it, because I remember
that's the first time I think I've ever heard anyone say they're really, really glad that they watched Justice League.
Yeah.
I've never heard any of that phrase come out of anyone's mouth.
It gives you a better appreciation for it, right?
I remember, quote unquote, live tweeting it was just through the Facebook Messenger app to you guys.
Yeah.
All of the things in the Snyder Cut that was drastic. Like, if anyone hasn't watched the Snyder Cut yet, if you have the time, watch the theatrical version first. Just knowing that it's gonna be like
disjointed,
4 out of 10. Like, it's gonna be not that great, but it's really important to watch that, to then watch the Snyder Cut, because I remember, like, by the number while watching it, I was sending message after message after message to you guys.
My phone was blowing up like that whole day. I was like, what?
I was just like, wait, what? This is like, okay, so we were talking about the opening theatrical version shot and how that's not like Snyder at all. And Daniel, maybe you can talk more into why that's not like Snyder, because the opening of the theatrical version compared to the opening of the Snyder Cut is just
night and day.
Night and day. It is so different. So maybe Daniel can talk into why they're so different.
Okay, so the theatrical cut, well, the reason why the theatrical cut is right off the bat, you know that it's not Zack Snyder's movie, is because the whole opening scene is Superman and Mustache Gate. The first shot of the whole movie,
which for those of you who didn't ever follow it, so as part of Joss Whedon's reshoots, he needed to get most of the cast back, mainly Henry Cavill, because he wanted to reshoot a lot of Superman scenes. Henry Cavill was already in the process of filming Mission Impossible at the time, and as part of that, he had this big, thick mustache. Now, Warner Brothers offered to, was it Paramount who did?
It was Paramount. Yeah.
Paramount, they offered to Paramount, if you let him shave it, we'll CGI it back in for you. We will pay to CGI his mustache back in for you. And they said
prosthetics or whatever.
Right, and they said, no, he's filming our movie right now. It's not our fault you want reshoots. You have to CGI around his mustache. Because he had to go back and forth and be filming scenes for Justice League in between Mission Impossible. So he had this full mustache and stubble that they had to CGI over.
Yeah.
And so
do we have a photo of how weird that looks or not?
I don't know, Bobby. Did you manage to
I'll get pull? I pulled the numbers, what you were wondering. So 1.8 million households watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, but only a third of them finished the movie.
Only a third of them actually finished the movie so far?
Yep. So only
does that include my fourth viewing that I've only gone halfway through so far?
Yes, it does.
So according to this, these analytics people, they'll count a viewership of anyone that watches a movie for over 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, and then they looked at all the people that actually watched it to completion, and only a third of that 1.8 million households finished the movie.
Now, here's what I'd be interested to know.
Bobby, your connection's like, you're like buffering and staticky all over. Are you doing all right?
Because I got a lot going on my computer. I'm okay.
Dad,
don't worry.
Probably because
one beer.
We're like catching half of what you're saying.
We're catching half of what I was saying.
Yeah.
So I'll just cut some of my stuff.
Okay. I'd be interested to know if the to completion, where they judge that at. Like,
yeah, I would assume anything over like 90% probably.
But I'd be interested because is it the end? Is it the end of the credits? The beginning of the credits? Is it the post-credit scene? Like,
yeah,
because I'd be interested to know because that's a big difference. Like, if they're saying if they judge it at
who's going to watch all the way to the end of the credits?
Maybe that's what
like,
you know what I mean. Maybe
0.5% of the people watching.
They could be intentionally trying to buffer the numbers by. Because that was the thing the one that I was saying was comparing the amounts of streams between Godzilla vs. Kong, Wonder Woman 84, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. And it was like ridiculous how much lower these numbers were showing that Zack Snyder's Justice League was compared to Wonder Woman 84 and Godzilla and Kong.
There's a lot of interesting inside baseball rumors coming out that Warner Brothers is intentionally messing around to fudge with those stats and that data to make it look like Zack Snyder's Justice League isn't as good as it actually
exactly what I was saying.
As it actually did. So
interesting.
Yeah.
What were you talking about right before
the mustache?
You and the mustache gate and like the whole deal. What makes it not be Zack Snyder's Justice League? That shot right off the beginning was like, okay, this is not Zack Snyder's movie.
And it was like this kind of kind of weird like interview with these.
It was kids on the street with like a cell phone, I guess. But a really crappy cell phone foot. I'm like, well, I don't get it. And so it didn't start out in a way that made you go, oh, I see how this connects with all of the other movies.
Right.
And even just thematically and tonally, the music didn't really fit a lot.
Right.
They brought in Danny Elfman. And so then Danny Elfman started confusing the hell out of everybody with the score by bringing in his version of the Batman theme, which doesn't fit anything that was used in Batman v Superman. And then they start bringing in some of John Williams' Superman to just show up, which doesn't match, Hans Zimmer's theme from Man of Steel. Like, it was such a mess. It was such a mess. And for those of us who loved the universe that was being built and the character arc that was happening in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, you knew within the first like 10-15 minutes that this was not going, like, this must be some Elseworld kind of story, because this is not connected really to those movies at all, which was a huge disappointment. So
it was a very like, when I watched the theatrical version and then right after watched the Snyder Cut.
Did you watch it immediately after? Like
within a day or two. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was like, holy crap, this is literally a completely different movie. Like, there are so many.
Can you zoom in on that, Bobby?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, get that zoom on.
There it is. That's,
oh my god,
atrocious.
That's just horrible.
Right. And on top of that, like, here's the other thing too. I feel like, just look at Superman's suit. All right.
Yeah.
Compared to his suit in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, that suit is not nearly the same. Like, it.
Yeah, I thought his suit looked really weird in the theatrical version. Like, it looked like, when like those kind of, when those guys wear those shirts that like make it look like they have abs.
Yeah, but they don't.
Well, because here's what happened.
It was all reshoots too. So
right. Because they had his suit designed to overlay the black CGI onto it.
And the only reason why that is because Warner Brothers insisted that the black wouldn't be a thing.
Right.
Warner Brothers pitches like, no, you're not allowed to do the black suit.
So why were they not okay with that?
Because they kept having this mindset that, nope, we need to compete with Marvel and have these fun, upbeat, colorful, joking around, like all of that kind of stuff. And Superman going the opposite direction of the suit that he had, which was already like a muted, kind of darker shade version of his suit. Then to go from that down to black, they're like, no, you're going in the opposite direction of what we want these characters to go. You need to make Superman bright, colorful, the Man of Steel that everybody knows, Christopher Reeves era kind of stuff, which is why if you look at that movie, not only is his suit brighter, but you can tell it's almost got like a CGI glow glossiness to the
it looks weird.
Bright colors.
It looks weird.
And it's because they went overboard on that aspect of it. And it doesn't fit even the comic books. Like even they don't explain it in the movie in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but after he dies and comes back, he has a black suit. Like that's just
so why
how
does
it
it
is.
a black suit?
So I'm can I answer this, Dan?
Go for it.
So in the comic books, when Superman originally died, he was not back at full power, so he had to wear a black suit to absorb more of the sun's rays to get him back to full power. That's why he had a black suit in the comics when he came back to life.
It's a special suit designed to help him absorb more of the sun.
Right. That's what. And then in the movie, they don't
There's no
explain
reason
that.
for it.
There's no reason for it, which is one of my gripes with the
I
movie.
was just gonna say, I wish even in passing, just
like, why are you wearing
comment?
It could have been a very, very quick mention of some kind where he's explaining it, and they didn't.
Because they showed the blue costume. They showed all the various Kryptonian costumes he could have chosen, but he chose a black version of it,
including Zod's armor and the armor that his father had.
Right. So all there it was too. All cool. There. So it's kind of like
something as simple as when he's walking up to it, you hear like the computer voice be like regeneration suit or like.
Sure,
something super baseline to explain why all of a sudden the black suit for people who aren't hardcore comic fans and don't understand what the black suit means. They're just like, oh, is he goth now? Like
okay, but also I understand that whole thing wasn't addressed. But for Snyder fans, was the black suit a really big deal?
It was. Because it was a prime example of it was a prime example of a ridiculous hump that the studio was a hill the studio was willing to die on.
Even more than that, when Zack continued to talk about what his film is supposed to be about and what his original story arc for Superman was supposed to be about, the black suit is extremely important for Superman eventually stepping into the hero that the world needs. And that it's not just the regeneration aspect of it from a narrative component, from a character and story arc component. It is a visual representation of a certain season that Superman is on himself to eventually become the person that everybody is waiting for Superman to be, which is this amazing, optimistic, hopeful Boy Scout superhero and beacon for the world. Like
I think you started to see that in the Zack Snyder movie. You started to see that, but I don't think in the 4-hour runtime, which I watched the 4 hours. I had to watch it in pieces, unfortunately, just to get through it.
The first time I watched through it, I did it in pieces too.
Yeah,
no, I did it in pieces. First off, Dan, what were your thoughts? We're 43 minutes in. No one gave what's their thoughts on this movie. Dan, did you love it? Did you hate it?
It is the best DC universe, like extended universe movie, and quite possibly Zack Snyder's best work yet, if you ask me. So,
Christian, what do you think?
I think it was a fantastic improvement on the Justice League. I think there were a handful of pieces that still felt a little disjointed to me, and a handful of pieces that I would have preferred to see a little more, just even passing explanation on. But overall, a fantastic improvement, a really good movie. And it was one of those things where I almost didn't notice it was 4 hours.
Sure.
I watched it in two parts. I watched it in 2 2-hour chunks, and by the time I was done with the first 2 hours, I thought I was only like 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
Andrew, what did you think?
So, being someone who doesn't know a ton about the DC universe, not only just movies, but nothing about comics, and and then watching the theatrical version first, and then watching the Snyder Cut, like, kind of to quote Joe, who isn't able to make it tonight, he was like, the theatrical version was like a 3 out of 10, and the Snyder Cut was like a 7 out of 10. I would say it was like an 8 out of 10 more than a 7, but it was just, I mean, dude, like, in every way, and we haven't even talked about it yet. But the fact
we really haven't.
Yeah, we've kind of been recapping.
Dude, the fact that like the main villain looks drastically different
and better. Like,
and like, looks menacing.
Like,
dude's got a real intimidating presence.
Badass in the Snyder Cut.
He has an intimidating sense, and at the same time they also expand a little bit more on his motivation of why he's doing what he's doing.
100%. He doesn't feel like a mindless just drone,
right? The fact that he is that menacing of a presence and that much of a badass, and then you see sequences with him and Desaad and Darkseid where, as menacing as he is, he's the grunt compared to them. That makes them feel that much more intense, like, oh crap, these guys are
right.
If he's going to them and he's trying to make up some mistake he made to them, like, that means those guys are the real badass.
It was very reminiscent of that scene, I know, on a much different scale, and you're probably gonna bash me for even comparing this, but it was very reminiscent of that scene in the first Avengers when Loki goes and visits Thanos for the first time.
Oh yeah.
And you see this person that is intimidating and has this presence, basically being just like crushed down to a tiny little person.
It wasn't even Thanos, it was his lackey. Right. And then you didn't see Thanos till the end credits.
The end credits, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Like that setup, like, that works.
Yeah,
it works. And that wasn't anywhere in the theatrical release.
No.
So yeah, to like finish off what I was saying, like the Snyder Cut really like tied together so much more what DC has been doing with this universe, and I feel like excited about where it could go. Where like the theatrical version, I was like, okay, it was all right, but I mean, dude, like, the fact that the main villain was drastically different looking, and the way that the main villain died is drastically different.
The fact that he did die.
Well,
the theatrical version,
not only did he die, but he was killed by the heroes.
Yeah.
And then like again, we've already said, like, on the bottom of this thing, there's tons of spoilers, but like, the fact that the actual plot is completely different for Cyborg. Like, it is.
This is as much his movie as any other character.
It is completely a different movie. Like, his father in the theatrical version makes it through all of this, and they get back together, and they're like, cool, let's keep doing science stuff. But like, that is not what happens in the
Poor Miles Dyson. Poor Miles Dyson. He can never catch a break with technology and explosions.
Right. It's the same actor from T2. But
so, side note, what does he technically become? The Atom? Ryan Choi.
Oh, Ryan Choi. He becomes the Atom.
Right. Did he even appear in the theatrical version, or is his character completely cut?
His character was present in the background of a couple scenes, but he never had any speaking, as far as I recall.
Right.
And his actual name, like, it was never really referenced.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's there's other heroes like the Martian
Manhunter.
Manhunter, that's like that was not even in the theatrical.
That was a huge thing too, because that had been speculated all the way since Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's who that was,
and
lurking in the background.
So side note on that, Jeff Johns, the guy who was in charge of all of the DCEU stuff for forever and conflicted with Zack Snyder on clearly just about everything, had said in multiple interviews and in front of fans at comic book conventions and that sort of thing, when asking about the Martian Manhunter and asking and inquiring about if, that guy was the Martian Manhunter or if we'd ever seen him yet and all of that, he said straight up, Martian Manhunter is a terrible character. He used some derogatory foul language when he did it and said that guy's never going to be in any one of my movies. Which is, he was trying to shut everybody up. In trying to give credit to Zack Snyder's vision, because he knew Zack was on his way out. And well, now we got the Martian Manhunter, and guess what, Jeff? It's not one of your movies.
Yeah,
thank God. So,
like in all of those differences, it was like very clearly seeing like, okay, I'm hoping that DC is going to go this way rather than what they were going, because I recently have been going through all of the Marvel movies again, the MCU, and just like, to be honest, I've always been kind of the person that's like, cool, another superhero movie. We all know that this person's not going to die, and we all know that blah, 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 and then the evil guy is going to be destroyed and whatever. Yeah. But it's been really interesting going through them again and seeing how much they've pulled the thread through from like literally the first Marvel movie all the way to Endgame, and how much like that's actually really exciting. And so
that was the problem, was DC tried to jump the gun on that.
Well, I would say DC didn't try to jump the gun. Warner Brothers pushed Zack Snyder, who was originally in charge of all of this stuff.
Sure.
Like he was a producer and having a lot of like key influence originally on where all of the other DC movies were tying in.
They tried to do it backwards. They wanted to go Man of Steel, Batman, Superman, Justice League, then all the solo movies.
Here's the deal. You had Suicide Squad was in there. You had, and this is where the whole Suicide Squad and Ayer's Cut thing comes in. Like, there was a lot more to these direct films connecting.
100%.
That Zack Snyder was a part of. Yeah. And Warner Brothers said, this is all like, we don't have time for this, basically, is what they were saying. We need to catch up, and we need to catch up quick, which rushed all of the incredibly important, tiny little breadcrumbs that all build up to excitement and enthusiasm and buzz and gets everybody excited for the next movie.
It would be like if after the first Thor movie, they did Avengers Endgame.
I wouldn't go quite that far, but
I mean,
I see your point.
They tried to build to a culmination without having any.
They did Iron Man. They did Iron Man 2, and then they did. That's one of my biggest problems with Justice. I liked the Snyder Cut. I enjoyed it because they did a better job with the Flash. They fleshed out his origin. Andrew,
God, it's such a better job.
they did a great job with Cyber.
Everybody.
They did a better job overall. I have my gripes with it, and I can talk about my gripes later. Okay. But overall, I like the origin stories, but getting to the difference between the MCU and the DCEU, unfortunately, like you said, they're jumping the gun, and they had to make they had to cram an origin movie into the Justice League. And could you have a tighter movie if you did the origin stuff beforehand?
They did Iron Man, went straight to Civil War, and then did Avengers. That would be the comparison.
I mean, to some degree, that's basically what they tried to do.
Because how many MCU
they tried to squeeze Guardians of the Galaxy in there?
There's like 22.
With
how many MCU movies are there compared to DC?
23 to 5.
Yeah. So,
6.
Do you think that there was legitimately a thing where Warner Brothers is like, holy crap,
6.
Marvel's killing it. They're making all this money. We need to do
100%. That's 100% what it was. Without a doubt, Warner Brothers looked at it and said, they're 10 years ahead of us, and we don't want to take the 10 years it'll take
a lot of the massive panic that happened at Warner Brothers was the result of people not liking the theatrical version of Batman v Superman, and
which they messed with too.
which they messed with too. If you look at the ultimate cut, does it fix the Martha moment? No, a lot of people still have a problem with that. But
does
the
it
rest
fix
of
the
the movie,
does it fix the horrible design of?
Yeah, there's definitely things that when I watched that, I was like, oh, okay, this makes way more sense.
Way more sense than the theatrical version.
Yeah.
It was a substantially better movie. Is it perfect? No. I mean, a lot of issues that people have with it, but there's no denying the fact that it's a substantially better movie. And that's the biggest issue with Warner Brothers. I feel like they did not allow Zack Snyder to have the freedom to just make the vision that he had become a reality, because the way that his brain works when he's putting all of this stuff together is much bigger than just a one movie thing.
And that's got to be tough, like having like that huge of a vision and then being forced to like put it down.
Like, no, you got to cram it in. And we're competing with Marvel, so you got to like pick it up.
Well, I mean, think about what did they go through? 4 directors for The Flash?
Yeah.
Before they finally settled on who's scheduled to do it right now. Like they and what did they go through 3 different directors for Aquaman before they settled on James Wan?
Yeah.
And not to mention all the drama that happened with Joss. I think, and Joe's not here.
Joss
so
Whedon is
Joss Whedon
and Ray Fisher
did a lot with Ray Fisher, and there's also reports that he threatened Gal Gadot's career too, because she was relatively new on the scene. This wasn't her breakout role because she was in The Fast and the Furious,
but it was one of her larger roles because back in 2017
she was in Batman v Superman, and she was in
Fast and the Furious, which her character died in Fast and the Furious. So even that, like,
and at that time it was like, well, we're doing a Wonder Woman movie. We don't know how good it's going to be received. It was received very well, which was huge for her career. But yeah, Joss Whedon was like.
Yeah, I feel like we need to speak on Joss Whedon. We have an hour left. We need to touch on Joss Whedon. So who would be the best?
I don't think he deserves even a second of our time, to be honest.
Boo,
I would much rather spend the next hour talking about the good things than focusing on him.
Yeah.
But just
I would agree,
recap,
but
all right, everyone do the research and look up why Joss Whedon was not a good director.
Why he was not a good person,
not just a good director, like not a good person. Even going all the way back to Buffy and the Vampire Slayer, there are multiple people coming out now saying this guy is just a
decades long worth of scumbag.
Yeah.
All right,
James Marsters.
We don't need to spend any more time. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So why is the Snyder Cut important? Because I feel like after watching both of the versions, I 100% agree that the Snyder Cut is absolutely necessary. Even though it may not be perfect, I absolutely think it is necessary for DC to be able to continue to create good content.
Lessons learned, I think, hopefully. But
lessons learned.
It doesn't look like WB is learning their lesson, though. Because
here's the thing.
They've already, Warner Brother Pictures has said, we're not doing anything with Zack Snyder's universe. Yeah. Which is why they released the Snyder Cut has morphed into restore the Snyderverse, and instead, because everybody saw this movie and they go, okay, Warner Brothers, the hell were you thinking? This guy knows what he's doing. He's got big vision, and we need to see the rest of this. And Warner Brothers already said, like, within less than a week, the head of Warner Brothers, she came out and said, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Did they say any reason why they're not doing that?
Because they were hoping this would just shut everybody up and they'd be done with it.
She didn't say that, but she ducked the question by basically saying, we're really excited about all of the other properties and all of the other DC films that we have in the works that are coming out.
Which is what?
You've got The Flash, you've got all the independent stuff. You've got the new Batman movie that's coming out, which has officially been dubbed in Earth 2. Which means it is completely separate from anything in the DCEU.
Guy from Twilight, right?
Yes.
Robert Pattinson.
Mm-hmm. Which looks honestly really good.
It looks
good. It does look good. And then you've got Black Adam, which is coming out. They're talking about Shazam 2.
Which actually, correction, it is 7 movies because Shazam is technically in the DCEU as well.
Yep.
So 7.
They're focusing on making movies to go in theaters, and it looks like they're not including any of the Snyderverse to be part of that. But as I'd said earlier, AT&T is like Papa Bear in charge of everything.
Yeah.
And I highly doubt after seeing how much money has come in, how much subscriptions have come in, how much monumental praise has been made of this version of these characters, that Warner Brothers, they'll be like, okay, you guys go ahead, make your movies, whatever you want. HBO Max, that's the Snyderverse space.
Well,
if anybody wants anything with the Snyderverse, you need to come to HBO Max.
Backtracking a little bit to something you had mentioned earlier, Andrew, was your question about COVID's effect on this.
Yeah.
I think this is the one piece where COVID actually hurt Zack Snyder's Justice League, in the fact that because all of as good as, like I said earlier, as good as it was that all these other movies got put on HBO Max, it significantly reduces the ability to gauge how many people got HBO Max because of Zack Snyder's Justice League. If Zack Snyder's Justice League was kind of the flag bearer for it, and it was kind of the big release coming, it'd be that much easier to say, okay, there was nothing really else on HBO Max and we got X amount of subscriptions.
Yeah.
Whereas because all these other movies are coming through,
they'll still see, like, here's the thing though, Christian, I think there's still data that they can look at.
Yeah,
like,
but there's no way to directly tie it.
When the announcement of Zack Snyder's Justice League officially came out, there was a spike in HBO Max subscription.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And you can see how many first people signed on to watch Justice League as soon as they subscribed
it came out, and if
so
they
you can get
around,
that kind of data.
Like that kind of data of, okay, did they watch the movie? Did they stick around? Did they watch the whole thing? Are they hanging on to their subscription? Like all of that data can all be quantified and compiled together.
I'm just saying it makes it a little harder.
It does, but at the same time, Warner Brothers is also announced that after this year, they're not going to be doing that.
Yeah, all the movies
anymore,
are going back in theaters,
right? Which means they need more content to keep people staying subscribed. Zack Snyder's the Snyderverse, the DC Snyderverse, I think could be a huge draw.
Yeah, it would be a huge moneymaker for it.
As well as merging all of the stuff from the DC online app thing that they had, where they had all the animated show, like all of that stuff,
which is now on HBO Max, which is
piling over to HBO Max and staying there. There's a season 3 of the Harley Quinn animated series, which is fantastic. That's coming. Fantastic. So there's reasons why I think I'm not giving up hope on the fact that we'll still see what happens.
I'm not
next.
either. I think like you said, enough people are rallying around it. And after this, they denied it for years and years and years, saying, oh, no, it's never going to be a thing. It's never going to be a thing. And it finally was. So, and I think the thing that is kind of, I'm not even sure if you saw this, Dan, the thing that is kind of, I've seen kind of galvanized this force even more a little bit of pushing for this was there was an interview done with James Gunn a few weeks ago. And they asked him what his kind of interactions were with Warner Brothers as he was putting together the list of characters he wanted in Suicide Squad. And they asked him, like, kind of, what was your experience like? Was there any kickback on any of these characters you wanted? Kind of what's that been like? And he literally said flat out, he was like, they gave me whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
He was like, any character I asked for, they gave me, and they let me make my movie. And so you've had these kind of two dividing forces of saying, oh, see, Warner Brothers learned, while also the other side of that saying, no, it's just not Zack Snyder, so they don't hate him.
Right.
And I think it's a little bit of both.
I think the Warner Brothers side of the negative side of that is they will never acknowledge the fact that they made a mistake. No. They're never going to do it.
Well, that's
they
the same
just
point.
Moved. They moved Jeff Johns on to other projects and moved on.
Yeah.
And that wasn't them saying, oh, he's not the right guy, we screwed up. That was them just going, no, we're going to give him something else.
Responsibilities. Yeah.
Right.
That's the same point I've been saying for a year now about Disney and Star Wars. They're never going to admit.
They'll never acknowledge it. And whatever, like people, they see the difference, and like the difference. And if this becomes, here's the thing that I think is really interesting is how this could end up becoming an internal battle between the AT&T properties of HBO Max versus Warner Brothers Pictures when it comes to all these different DC properties. I feel like there could be some weird kind of internal rivalries going on a little bit.
Yeah.
Who knows? But looks like Alberto's here. Hey,
Alberto.
Better late than never. We got, an hour left in the show.
I'm here.
Okay, so
How's it going, buddy?
as we're going forward in this, we haven't really talked much about the differences between the new Snyder Cut and the old. Like, do we have a list?
Don't even call it the old Snyder Cut. Don't even call it that.
I'm sorry.
It's not an old Snyder Cut. See, and so there's a little bit of a trigger for me. When I was looking at all kinds of people talking about the Zack Snyder Cut and all the differences that were there, I kept seeing articles where people were saying, here's 15 things Zack Snyder changed about the Justice League movie. And I'm like, no, F you. Zack Snyder didn't change a damn thing. Joss Whedon is the one who changed everything. And he just course corrected.
So let's talk about it a little bit. Do we have a list?
I got kind of a list on our thing. So
I have a quick thing before you dive into the list, Bobby.
Yeah. Go for it.
Just kind of a counterpoint to Dan there.
Are you gonna just
be right back,
me and it's gonna be
I'm probably gonna trigger, but I'm gonna make one little quick jab and then we'll go to Bobby's list. We have absolutely zero concrete evidence to say that he didn't change anything. He spent a lot of money re-editing these scenes and adding CGI and whatever he needed to do. We have absolutely no way of saying he didn't change anything. We have his word for it, and we have there's no way to know. We'll never know.
Dude, this was Zack Snyder's movie.
I'm not saying it wasn't his movie.
No,
I'm not saying it wasn't his movie.
Listen to me. Zack Snyder's Justice League is the movie. It is the Justice League movie for the DCEU. And anything that was done to his movie by him was his original vision. It's his version of his vision of his movie. And if anybody changes anything to the Justice League, it's everybody but Zack Snyder, because it was always starting with his original vision for this film and these characters.
I'm just saying there's no way to know that over 4 years of seeing all of these reactions coming out to the movies, that he didn't have a line or a scene in the theatrical Justice League that he was able to be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, screw it.
I'm going to blame
that on Joss Whedon.
No, he's not blaming. He never even saw the theatrical version of the film, and he's never
allegedly.
He's never going to see it.
I find that hard to believe.
He's never going to see it. Every single person in his life who has seen it, who worked on the film, who loves him dearly and knows how much he has poured his blood, sweat, and tears into this film, have all said, never watch this movie. Never watch it. And he believes them, and he hasn't watched it. Okay. But here's the deal. Anything that he has done and changed from his original vision of what he had 4 years ago was him. And nobody in any of these lists is making the case of, oh, here's what Zack Snyder changed about his own movie and what he wanted to do 4 years ago. That's not what these lists are. No, these lists are going, hey, here's everything Zack Snyder did that was different from Joss Whedon's movie.
Right. And that's all I'm saying is we have no concrete way to say what was Joss Whedon and what was him in that original movie that he's redoing.
We absolutely do. I'm going to show you some YouTube clips of people plugging everything together and making it abundantly obvious what is Zack Snyder's and what is Joss Whedon's, because it is clear as day, without question.
I love fucking with you, Dan.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
Let's get to some of the
list
and
scene.
Okay. And the scene. So first,
can I ask a real quick question about
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sorry, just because I know that I came in halfway in.
You're good.
What stuff have you guys covered so far? I know you guys are going to dive into the differences.
We covered kind of how we got to the Snyder Cut.
Oh, okay.
Kind of what was the driving force behind it, and we covered kind of the base kind of necessity of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked briefly on kind of whether we think it'll lead to the Snyderverse.
And ultimately, if we thought it was better than the theatrical version. We haven't gotten your take on that yet, though, Alberto. Did you like this more than the theatrical version or no?
Yeah, I mean, short answer, yeah. It's not a perfect movie. There is definitely a lot that is still missed, but when compared to the other one, when compared to the half-cut apple that was left on the counter for 6 weeks and then you take a bite of a movie which was the original Justice League movie.
That's such a vivid and great example.
That is the Justice League for sure.
Yeah. So that's easy, yes.
Yeah. No, and it's been sitting on the counter forever and growing a mustache, and then you decide to try and cover it up with you know, like that's the Justice League for sure. Love it, Alberto. Love it.
To the list, Bobby.
To the list. So
On
Jared
the list.
Leto was Returns of the Joker. That was added. That was actually added in post-production.
Yeah, that entire nightmare sequence at the end.
The nightmare cliffhanger was
that whole
added.
thing at the end. Yep.
You have the Deathstroke, the differences with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor. Their conversation has been slightly changed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was some of the changes. Darkseid and Desaad are in it now.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big change. The 4:3 aspect ratio, because this was originally supposed to be.
We haven't even talked about that. What did you guys think of the change in the aspect ratio?
So I watched the first half on my phone.
Okay.
I watched the first half of the first 2 hours while I was on a plane on my phone. It bothered the crap out of me on my phone. I couldn't stand how much of my phone was dead space. But then once I watched the second half on my TV, I didn't notice it. It didn't bother me at all.
Fair enough. Bobby, what did you think? The aspect ratio.
I watched it on my 40-inch TV the entire time. Sometimes I noticed it, sometimes I didn't. So that's kind of where it is. It's like, I don't know what I prefer. I mean, I guess over the years I prefer the 16:9 aspect ratio, but in the end, whatever.
I mean, most TVs are in that now.
Yeah, so I would have preferred it for that
ratio,
because that's what I probably would have seen it as.
I love the so here's this is a great example of understanding like the commitment that Zack Snyder has to his vision and how dedicated he is to it. He knew full well that this is going to be going predominantly to a streaming service where everybody had widescreen TVs at home. And yet he still insisted that the larger, taller aspect ratio that was originally intended for IMAX is how people need to see this, because the vertical aspect of that ratio he felt just gave the grander scale that he was going for, even on a smaller screen. Like, that's kind of funny, and also some people are like, what? Why did you do that? Like, nobody's seeing this in theaters. Nobody's going to see this in IMAX because nobody's seeing it in IMAX. I think there could have been part of that though, where it was like, well, that was his original plan, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
You can't really reverse course on that after so much of it has been, there's part of that too. That
can't back.
Right.
And adjust it a second time.
That's just more time, more money. It's like, no, let's just release it like this. This is how I originally intended it. And so we'll just pitch it as that,
Yeah.
All right. So back to the list.
Yep.
Yeah.
The new Steppenwolf design and his background story. Desaad has been entered into it. We have the entire opening has changed, where now we were talking about this earlier, where in the theatrical cut, you had kids on multiple phones interviewing Superman, where in this version, it ends with Superman dying at the hands of Doomsday, and his yell awakens the mother boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a change. You have a lot of the jokes have been banished. So you don't have that lasso scene where Aquaman's sitting on the lasso and he's spilling out his guts. So that's.
Can I just say, I actually didn't mind that scene. That was one of the few joke scenes in the theatrical cut. It was awkward, but I actually didn't hate it because I feel like it still fit.
All right, but what about the scene where Superman?
I know where you're going.
Is that where I was going?
Yes.
And
so,
it was like,
the itchy sweater.
Smell good.
You smell good.
Did I not before?
Did I not smell good before?
And like
what? Oh, it's so cringy
line ever. And in the Snyder Cut, Superman hadn't talked all the way to that point.
Yeah.
And then he says something, and Lois Lane said, what was it she said? Like,
she said, hey, you spoke.
You
or
spoke.
you talked or something like that.
Yeah. And it was like, did I not before? And it was like, when I watched the theatrical version, which I watched first, and when she was like, you smell good. And then it's like, did I not before? I'm like, yeah, he's a dead body that came back to life. Of course he doesn't smell good.
He's been rotting in the grave for God knows how long. And then,
no, because
and then
he cells he wasn't rotting because of his Kryptonian cells.
Yeah. But he was buried in the ground, and then they dumped him in a bunch of like ancient water and goo to try and bring him back to life and fried it. He doesn't smell good. What the heck was that like?
It was like, okay, he hadn't done anything to make himself smell good.
No, it's the dumbest.
He hadn't taken a shower. He hadn't anything.
And he flew them through the air from Metropolis. Just got in a big fight, so he's all sweaty.
He probably flew through a rainstorm. That's all it was.
Through the clouds.
Isn't that like a classic Josh Whedon thing?
100%.
Josh Whedon joke right there for sure.
100%.
So,
and as well as the really dumb, extremely misogynistic joke of the Flash landing on Wonder Woman's boobs face first for a split second, which was super awkward.
Yeah.
And Gal Gadot, right? Gal Gadot refused to shoot that scene.
So did her stunt woman.
And her stunt woman didn't either. So Joss hired a body double to come in with her face facing away from the camera so that he could get that shot, because that really dumb joke was apparently that important to him.
Yeah.
And there's probably no legal thing that Gal Gadot can do about that.
I'm sure there probably isn't. But that's probably, I'm sure, what a lot of the argument Bobby was alluding to earlier, where he was claims are coming out where he's like, I'm going to ruin your career. You're never going to work in Hollywood again.
Yeah.
Like, because she dared to say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That belittles everything that we're trying to do with this character. And Zack himself was like, no, we're trying to make Wonder Woman become a badass character that is absolutely, if not greater than at the same level as all the guys around her. Like, we're not going to degrade and berate her with all this ridiculous.
Well, and then there was
stuff.
the like stuff that has come out since then that literally the entire time during filming, Joss Whedon referred to Wonder Woman as Natasha, because in his mind he didn't see a difference between her and Black Widow.
Yeah, which explains a lot of
I haven't heard that before.
Literally the entire every time he was ever talking about Wonder Woman, he called her Natasha.
Yeah.
But what was his reason behind, like, what was his view of Natasha?
The token female in the movie.
Token female character to get the teenage boys to show up.
Yeah.
And pay tickets.
Gotcha.
Like that's how he views it. Like you look back at a lot of his movies, that's how he treats the female character.
Yeah, what's his
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, all that stuff.
Age of Ultron, where Black Widow is reduced to a third wheel love interest.
He was the director for Age of Ultron?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was his final project. After that, he said he was done. But my instinct's saying, I think Marvel's like, I think we're done with him.
100%.
I think we know this guy is.
I think now everything that we know, he's saying like, I can't handle it anymore. Marvel has too many notes for me and that's when all the wheels were changing at Marvel too. At Age of Ultron, all that stuff. Kevin Feige was taking tighter control of this process, and they luckily found the Russo brothers, and the Russo brothers took the rest of the reins, and they did and Kevin Feige did a really good job. But back to but just kind of going forward, they had the Flash dialogue where I don't do battle.
I just sort of push people and then run away. No, you're the effing Flash, and you can control time.
So that was the whole thing with Flash and the time travel and him having a bigger arc. That was a big thing,
the entire scene with him and Iris.
Anything involving time travel at all was removed from this movie with Joss Whedon.
It was like when I say that the Snyder Cut was necessary, like if people haven't watched it yet, watch the theatrical version and then watch the Snyder Cut, and you will see that they literally are night and day different movies. Like it's the same movie, quote unquote, but there is so much that is different in those movies. And I'm not like a fanboy. I'm not a DC fanboy.
That'd be me. I'm the fanboy.
That'd be Daniel. But like me being not a fanboy and watching the two movies, like they are drastically different. And literally entire plot points.
Yeah.
Completely different.
The list that you're continuing there, Bobby, I'm guessing we haven't even gotten to any of Cyborg stuff.
No, not yet. I mean, and some of it's too, as we're coming along, I'm just not even going, I'm just kind of skipping back and forth in my head. So the Cyborg, they fleshed out his entire origin.
Of Cyborg scenes
like, I feel like Justice League is the Cyborg movie.
And then they introduced and then Aquaman's movie makes a lot more sense now because they put in oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Falco. Dafoe. William Dafoe. You know, because now, and Mira has an English accent. But that whole Aquaman, it fits better with the Snyder Cut. Because the whole thing makes sense. How he gets, why he shows up at Atlantis at that particular point, how he gets his armor, how he gets his spear. It all makes sense now. That's all different.
And it's interesting. I know. James Wan, when he was making and directing the Aquaman movie, was in close communication with Zack Snyder and actually running key plot points by Zack to make sure that it didn't contradict his vision for the character, which was pretty cool to find out after the fact. So they have the whole Bruce Diana arc was gone. They were kind of flirty in the theatrical version, where like they were flirty in the anime and in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited TV show. The animated series,
in the animated series, they were flirty in the theatrical version.
Yeah, there's been kind of a long running kind of vague underline of flirtation between those two characters in all forms of media.
Right, and it was done in the theatrical version, the Snyder Cut, that was toned down. It was more professional courtesy. You don't have that Russian family anymore.
Thank God. That to me,
such a weird thing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It really felt like, as I was watching that movie for the first time, as I was watching the theatrical cut, I kept waiting for an epiphany moment for these characters to have been somebody of importance.
Yeah. A big twist moment to be like, here's the real reason why these people are here, other than just giving, Superman something to do, or giving the Flash something
a reason to not be there. Like, I kept waiting for this moment of like, oh, this is who these people actually are. Like, no, they were just a random Russian family.
Right after the Superman, after the fight, the whole infiltration, because how they get the third mother box, because in the theatrical version,
oh my gosh, so important.
What happened to the mother box? He got it. Oops. Where this one,
it was like 6 seconds in the theatrical version. Oh, he got it. Okay, moving on.
All done. We're screwed. And this one, they try getting it back. Silas Stone killed himself to make it traceable by superheating it, and Wayne used his satellite. So that was a big thing. We talked about Ryan Choi. Lois Lane, where she was much more lost, she was suffering depression.
Just kind of there half the
time. The Martian Manhunter, Martha Lois Lane meeting that was added in there. I thought that whole meeting, making it Martian Manhunter and Lois, kind of defeated the emotional purpose, making it
I'm kind of with you on that.
I think it decreased the emotional response. I'm like, oh, this is such a heartfelt moment, and then you find out it's Martian Manhunter, and I'm like, really?
The only reason why I look at that in hindsight, and I think to some degree give it still some of the same emotional weight. It's not the same as his mom, but when you look at Man of Steel and you look at his understanding and relationship with the world as Martian Manhunter, I think there's an aspect of what Zack was trying to build, which was, no, this guy actually cares for this universe too. And he had a relationship with Superman. Superman clearly knew who he was and said nothing. If you can see through walls, and even going as far back as to, Man of Steel, having a relationship with him, he could tell his physiology was different, but he didn't say anything, I think there's more to the relationship between Martian Manhunter and Superman than what was officially there originally. And I think Zack is wanting to build off of that to make that moment maybe a little more impactful in hindsight. But in the moment, I agree with you. It in the moment,
they could have built upon it or set it up a little bit differently to make it, that I would have. Anyway, so they have more R-rated language in here where Batman
drops the F-bomb.
What?
The gore factor.
The gore factor
amped way up
big time.
Yeah, even like in the Wonder Woman scene where she's taking on the bank heist.
She did the Batman move, man.
Like she did
the same thing that Batman did in the Ultimate Cut of Batman v Superman, where a guy gets thrown against the wall and cracks his head open, and there's blood on the wall when he comes down. I'm like, there you go.
Like that is a clear definition between the theatrical version and the Snyder Cut. Like
question for Dan specifically, because I know you're the mega nerd here. Something that I didn't understand, and maybe it was explained somewhere that I missed.
Okay. Maybe not.
Why is Wonder Woman have time slowing down capabilities? Like, why is she able to
It's not so. Okay, so it's not her. She's not slowing down time. It's not like the Flash. She is just insanely quick, like Superman. And Zack Snyder loves slow motion to be able to give weight to the impact of those moments that are happening really quick. To show how actually badass something is. He doesn't mind slowing the camera down to let you see and soak in every aspect of what the character is actually doing in that moment, as opposed to a lot of directors that don't go into slow-mo at all because they want to make sure that it hits a certain runtime, and at the same time you can hide a lot of things when you do things quicker.
So it's along the same vein of how Superman was able to track the Flash,
right?
Yeah, because he's so fast. Yeah, he's fast.
Gotcha.
There's some tech quests because Batman. They talked about how his gauntlets can handle Batman's heat vision.
Yep,
because he got that from the Kryptonian ship. Say that again?
Yeah, Superman.
His gauntlets were
Yeah, and then they also
was awesome. I love that.
They have the Alfred. Jeremy Irons, which I think his talent was wasted in the theatrical cut. They have him and Diana doing a little bit more human side of things, and then they have they couldn't get that big carrier working, and Cyborg ended up getting it working. So that was a big change. And then they didn't have the post-credit scene of Superman and Flash racing each other, which is big in Golden Age comics. Who's faster, Flash or Superman? That was not in the theatrical cut.
That was a wink and a nod to that big age-old rivalry.
And then I like to point out some of my notes. You have the Aquaman's fangirls.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in the bar.
The bar. I mean, the bar scene was immensely different. But did anyone really need 3 minutes of those? The fangirls? Could
singing?
Did it need to have the same Snyder cut? And could you have made this a tighter movie and still get the stuff and still get the emotional and character could you have made the Snyder Cut a tighter movie? Anyone? Do you think it needed to be 4 hours long, or could you have shaved some time cutting some of this stuff?
There are plenty of places to make it shorter, for sure.
Yeah, I would say probably an hour could have been shaved off.
No, I wouldn't go that
far.
far.
Well, and the Wonder Woman, and we forgot the Amazonians too had a bigger scene in it too. How they protected, how they fought, and how Diana got how she got the message. That all
maybe 30 minutes. I'll say 30 minutes.
I think they could have shaved 30 seconds easily of Aquaman chugging a shot, or not a shot, like a bottle of whiskey. Like
I think the slow-mo was a little overdone.
Like that could have easily been shaved off. But
that's just you guys complaining.
I mean, 10%
Snyder's
style. Did you see the stat?
Zack Snyder
of the movie was slow motion.
Yes,
40
and
minutes.
That's Zack Snyder.
Have
you seen Zack Snyder movies?
I have.
If you don't like slow motion being overdone, then don't watch a Zack Snyder movie. Because
I think it lowers the impact of the slow motion scenes, such as Wonder Woman and the Flash, when it's being used for Aquaman walking down a pier. Like it lowers the impact of the slow motion.
See, but if it's done like, it's not just slow motion for slow motion. It is holding on to that scene in conjunction with the music that is being played at the same time. Like which is
another difference too.
There's a lot of poetic imagery that is played out through a lot of those scenes. And Zack is real big on like, no, we're going to hold here so that the whole narrative of what I'm trying to convey in this moment plays out in its entirety instead of trying to cut it short. But some people like it, some people don't. And whatever, that's okay. But I did notice, did some of you guys notice at the end of this though, and this might be a little bit of an interesting, I don't know if they added this or if it was originally part of it, but Wonder Woman flies in this movie. Did you see that?
I didn't catch that.
Did you notice that? It's like the new ultimate shot of them coming together in one sequence, not unlike the first time that the Avengers did it. Like
when they're all coming down the road. You got the Batman.
They're coming down the road. Batman's in the car. They're all jumping or whatever. And Wonder Woman with her sword straight out, just straight up flying right alongside everybody.
I don't think that was her flying. I think that was her like leap thing that she does.
No, it was her flying.
Doesn't that
definitely her flying? And they changed that.
Doesn't that take away from 1984 though?
No, because she started flying in that movie, and this comes after that. A lot of people were complaining after 1984 came out, and they're like, well, why didn't Wonder Woman fly in the Justice League movie? Why wasn't she doing that? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, she's standing on the top of this gigantic building how the hell did she get up there? Like, she can fly. They just didn't, give it a moment. But
give it that.
She's flying in this one, not for very long. And
I still
blink and you'll miss it. But
Wonder Woman 84, so.
Sure. You still didn't see it?
I watched the first 25 minutes.
Oh, dude.
I couldn't get into the rest of it, and then it was off. And then it was off HBO Max.
You need to see the movie just to know what a bad movie is.
You need to watch it just to understand all the hilarious memes that the internet is filled with now.
It's not an HBO Max anymore, and I'm not going to pay money for it.
Okay,
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for it to come back around and be like $1 in Redbox, or come back around free again.
I like the first Wonder Woman, and then the second is just like everything that, if anyone knows what a pitch meeting is.
Oh yeah,
yes, those are great.
You've
got such a good channel,
which is made by Screen Chant. They do an incredible job of opening up all of the flaws of a movie, and they just rip this movie apart.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to do. But for all of its flaws, I think you guys are way harder on this movie than it deserves. But anyway, moving on.
So I guess a question that we haven't covered yet.
This is not a conversation about Wonder Woman 1984, Andrew. Moving on. It's not to talk about Star Wars. It's not to talk about Wonder Woman 1984.
Fine.
Moving on.
I would love to hear something that you still would change about this film. Despite all of the things that it improved upon, something that you still personally wish was different.
I can't say anything, honestly.
Okay.
What about you?
What
would you change?
There's a couple of things, Dan. There's a couple of things.
I might be there with you, dude. We'll see. We'll see.
Maybe this isn't so much change, like the movie necessarily, but as much as I loved the ending with Martian Manhunter, as much as I loved the ending of, like the alternate timeline, like the premonition that Batman was talking about, if none of this comes into fruition, it's just a hype train that was unfortunately set up, and it's not Zack's fault. I know the fingers can easily be pointed to Warner Brothers, but really, they're not getting along. And I think that's the one thing that I would change, that I wish I didn't see that, because now my mind and my expectations will not rest until I see that come to fruition. And until then, I'm just going to be so bummed to know that two awesome, really cool concepts. The first thing I did, I talked about this movie with my friend. I don't know if you guys have read or at least have played the game, but Injustice, immediately as soon as that whole alternate timeline, I was like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do the Injustice timeline. That is, or the whole story, or at least some beats of it.
Yeah, I've always heavily inspired by it.
I'm like, I was so excited, but then as soon as me and him started calming down with our excitement, because we were talking about it the very next day we watched it, then we're like, we also don't even know if anything's gonna come out of it. And if nothing comes out of it, yes, there's the game and there's the comic book, but just to have that movie just to continue would be the best. And the Martian Manhunter was, I think, a little bit too shoehorned in. It felt kind of shoehorned in, like it just happened. And me, as a comic lover and Justice League lover, I watched the animated series growing up. I was like, oh my god, it's Martian Manhunter. Everyone else I was watching the movie with in the room, they're like, wait, who is this person? And you don't really know who Martian Manhunter is unless either A, you've read all the material beforehand, or you've read up all the behind the scenes stuff of setting him up since the beginning of the Snyderverse trilogy stuff. So
they didn't do a good job setting him up or alluding to his character. So I think that's a big thing.
Well, my dad, my parents watched this separately from me. My dad is not a big comic book person much at all. His first thing was, wait, so Superman's mom was an alien the whole time?
Yeah.
And I mean, because
I could see how people would interpret that totally wrong.
Yeah. Because you have this long scene with her and Lois Lane, and then all of a sudden it's revealed to be this alien who, if you're not a comic book fan, you have no idea who that is.
Now, I also have a really quick question, just because I know we're getting shorter on time. But speaking of Injustice, my buddy and I, when we were talking about this, I asked him, do you think anything will come out of this? And he's like, honestly, I don't think Warner Brothers will actually move forward with this. They're probably really happy that everyone subscribed and ended up watching the movie and they got a good buzz out of it.
Warner Brothers doesn't have anything to do with that, though.
Well, whoever is in charge
of it, HBO Max is a separate branch from Warner Brothers Pictures, and AT&T is the one who's like the big umbrella of both of them. So
to him, he's still on the fence of he really, really loves DC. If he had to pick between DC and Marvel, the core material, the original core material, he would always pick DC, no questions. But
that's my kind of guy right there. I need to know this guy.
One big point that he did was kind of hoping at least for was, but if they don't continue it in the movie verse, it'd be so awesome if they continue to Snyder's verse into a monthly issue comic series, whether it be a limited series or something, just continuing his story, letting him pen some ideas of it, letting him be the head writer, something along those lines where at least fans that are dedicated, because really this movie is a love letter told to dedicated fans.
Yeah.
Continue to give it to them. I mean, making another sequel movie, something this big, it's going to cost a lot more, but making the monthly issues, it's probably going to be a lot easier, more manageable, maybe a little more realistic, and at least I'll get to see, that's such a cool setup they did. That's such a cool setup.
Yeah.
Joker, Deadshot, all of them, and then right there, Superman is just slowly approaching all of them, and I'm just like, I can't wait to see this. But then I was looking at the clock, and I was like, no, this is just a teaser. They're just playing my damn emotions right now.
And that moment is, as far as actual timeline goes, officially happens before the nightmare sequence in Batman v Superman. Because if you notice in that sequence in Batman v Superman, he's already got the card from the Joker attached to his gun.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole sequence of like the end of Batman or of Justice League that he added on there, and then Superman shows up. Now I'm like, how the hell did they get past that so that Batman could then show up in the sequence, that the nightmare sequence from Batman?
Because that's when Flash goes back in time.
Bingo. Which is why, like, I can't remember who I was explaining this to. It might have been a coworker of mine, but he was like, so what is, like, all these nightmare sequences, are they actually the future, or is it actual nightmares, or like, what is is it visions? What is it? And I think it's becoming pretty clear that every time you see a nightmare sequence, it is the result of someone messing with time, the Flash going through time. Even in the smallest instance, people are getting a moment of it. In Batman v Superman, he goes through time. Batman sees the nightmare sequence in the present. And then you've got in this movie, Cyborg sees a vision at the very last second of what's going to happen, right when Flash is when they're resurrecting Superman, and Flash has to reverse time a little bit just so that he can get the timing exactly right, which was genius. And why the hell they changed that from the theatrical, I don't understand. But that there, again, was a powerfully important opportunity. And you see the future because the Flash messed with time again. And so I'm thinking that nightmare sequence, again, like you guys are saying, it's all because the Flash goes back in time and bam, he's trying to change things again. So yeah, I really hope HBO Max ends up carrying this forward and we get something. But Alberto, I think it'd be amazing if they did a comic book series, though. If we don't get anything else, I think absolutely right. We need that at least.
A comic book series is much more likely than more movies. I really do.
Do you think maybe they'll do an animation instead? How about getting all the voice actors, so which should be less costly than.
I feel like that'd be almost just as expensive, though, to do it in a high enough quality animation.
Yeah, yes, but it would be a lot easier to get the justice, give it the context that it deserves in the like post-COVID world. Like shooting a movie in COVID is not nearly as easy as animating a series and getting a voiceover actor to come in. You can do a lot of that stuff remotely without having to fly people all over the frickin' planet to, get on site and bring the crew out. Like there's other ways to tell the story.
Do recordings of people without a video needed.
Yeah,
for sure.
To be honest, I'd prefer to have not a movie, but not unlike WandaVision or anything like that, where it's a series of episodes,
like a 6-episode, 45 minutes,
or even like he did this one, release the whole thing, but do it in chapters so people can sit and watch it in their own time if they want, an episode at a time, or the whole way through if they want. But I'm
so sorry. I think the original person that asked the question. Short answer, long story short, would be, if there's anything I would have to change, the introduction, like the real final or introduction to Martian Manhunter. I wish that was a little bit more better established. I have seen pretty much every Zack Snyder movie, and I have never grown fond of his slow-mo. Before, it was easier to enjoy because it was out of like an hour and a half, 2-hour movie. Now this is a 4-hour movie where 10% of it was in slow-mo.
Yeah.
So it's really apparent.
And that's accurate. It was like over 10%.
It was 10. It was like 40 minutes and like 37 seconds, I think. So it was like exactly 10% of the film.
So I totally know it's his style. That is his calling card. I'm not asking to change his style. I just wish it was like 20 minutes instead of 40. And I guess like the only other thing is, maybe you guys talked about it earlier too. There were still like really small nitpicking things that I wish that was just kind of reconsidered. Flash, like the hot dog placement during that Flash scene with
I guess I'm not sure what the
Well, because he grabbed the hot dogs from the truck and then he brought it to the.
Are you talking more specifically about where it was when it was hanging in the air while he was freezing time?
Yeah. So just specifically right there, I was just like, I'm like, well. It didn't have to be right there.
I wasn't paying attention, but
I did like the fact that when he was running, his sneakers blew up.
That was
Yeah.
That was badass, dude.
So
I love that.
I think how they handled Flash's power was much more raw and a visceral, and like it was dangerous.
Yeah.
And it gave his story and again another change. What they fleshed out his relationship with his father and the backstory, and yes, he wasn't an experienced hero, but throughout the movie he became more confident.
Well, that Flash wasn't nearly as annoying in a theatrical. Like he was way less annoying in Snyder Cut than theatrical.
He was still kind of jokey and sarcastic and kind of the comedic humor, but not nearly as like heavy-handed, forced junior high humor.
Yeah, and this is just my personal preference. I'm honestly, even after the Snyder Cut, still not a huge fan of Ezra Miller.
He does run kind of weird. The way that he runs was kind of weird.
I'm just
a little weird.
I'm just not a fan of his take on the character. It's personal preference.
Are you more a fan of the
CW?
Yeah, like I enjoyed the first couple seasons of the CW Flash. I fell off. I haven't watched it the last few years. I really haven't watched it. But honestly, here's the thing. To me, his take on the Flash felt, I don't even know how to describe it. It felt too juvenile for like how old he was supposed to be.
I can agree with that.
See, but okay, so
it didn't feel
the Justice League animated series. What we saw the Flash be in Zack Snyder's Justice League was the closest I think we've seen so far to being that sort of like just kind of sarcastic, jokey, a little bit junior high-ish humor version of the Flash.
See, that's the thing for me.
In my mind, like that is the quintessential Flash.
The Flash opens the Flash to me always felt very similar in lane to Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Yep.
In the sense that he was never childish. He joked around and he was immature. But this Flash felt too much like a little kid to me.
Yeah,
in the theatrical for sure. I think it
was better. It was much better in Snyder Cut. He was much better, and by the end of the movie, I was like, all right, I can tolerate him as this character.
So
but I still.
In other iterations of the Flash, he was much more Barry Allen, because there's a lot of Barry Allen
and Flash,
Barry Allen and Flash in
the
Barry Allen Flash. In other comic book, like in Teen Titans, Young Justice.
Mm-hmm.
He's much more, the Barry Allen Flash is much more of a solemn, character. He has like a little like quick joke sometimes, but he's very serious because he's that lab technician. He's he's an adult in the room who takes speed seriously.
But in the animated series,
he was a little different, which is fine.
Different, and the hot dog sequence in Zack Snyder's Justice League was very much a wink and a nod to I think that version of the Flash.
Because 100%.
He's constantly like seen eating hot dogs and all that sort of stuff wherever he is, because he's constantly trying to keep his metabolism up because he burns like a bajillion calories.
And they kept that dialogue in the Snyder Cut.
Right.
So.
Sure.
But Bobby, we got about less than 15 minutes here. What is one of the things that you would have changed or still didn't quite work for you in this that you were addressing?
I probably would have I would have made a tighter movie, and do a little bit more, make Martian Manhunter a little bit more prominent if you're going to show him up. I know the original and Martian Manhunter shows up to Bruce Wayne and say like, I'm here. And I'm like, well, thanks. We could have used you earlier.
Right.
So, and I know that was supposed to be Green Lantern.
Where were you 4 days ago?
Yeah.
Come on.
Green Lantern was supposed to show up in that place. It's like, that would have made more sense, but I know they have other things going on for Green Lantern, which is why Zack Snyder wasn't allowed to use Green Lantern.
Right.
But I would have that made more sense for Green Lantern to be in there, in that end sequence. So I would have changed stuff like that, make a tighter film. But the origins were a much needed aspect. If this was supposed to be the breakout movie for all the origins, you needed an origin movie within Justice League to justify that, and the theatrical version didn't justify the other movies.
100%. Yeah.
Did everybody give their?
I would say just the two things for me would have been agreeing with you guys about the Martian Manhunter, and then just give me Green Lantern. Just do it. Just give me Green Lantern. Just do it.
That was going to be my answer, Christian.
Just
the one thing from this movie that it wasn't doing that I was waiting for was the Green Lantern. I mean, you winked and you nodded, and you gave us a little more substance.
You gave us a Green Lantern. You gave us a Green Lantern
and a much better sequence of that lantern than the theatrical.
But even then, we saw him do nothing. We still got the wink and the nod of the ring flying off.
Right. Did you notice though? And here's another thing that I love: again, Zack Snyder's attention to details here. The arrow that hit Darkseid that he pulled out that stopped him from grabbing the ring before it flew away is the same arrow that gets launched into the world of men to warn Diana of what happened. Yeah, it's the same.
Cool.
Those little details there, like that's why you let the same director run with this franchise.
Yeah.
That stuff is awesome, anyways, so yeah, Green Lantern would have been my big one. I get why they kind of had to hodgepodge and make it Martian Manhunter instead.
Yeah.
Especially if they're doing more with the Green Lantern, but I feel like this would have been an awesome opportunity to tee up whatever they're doing with the Green Lantern and at least give us like a little teaser that there's more on the way.
And I think kind of we touched on it earlier with the about the black suit. There was just a couple pieces, kind of like Bobby said. I wish they would have just tightened things up a little bit and dropped there was a lot of lore, and that's why it was a 4.5 hour movie.
Yeah,
but there were bits and pieces that still felt unexplained and just kind of.
If you're gonna go out.
The wind.
If you're gonna go 4 hour movie, make it another hour and explain the little things and give the the comic book guys. If you're gonna do it, make it happen.
Another hour would have been a whole nother line of every minute of this movie costs a substantial amount of money to
if you're gonna make a movie,
and if you're gonna add additionally a whole nother hour to a 4 hour movie, that's substantially more money, dude.
I would have preferred a dark blue, the blue Superman suit from Man of Steel over the black suit because it didn't make sense to me in the movie, even though the emotional arc and he's going through a change, they didn't explain it. I think that was one of the weaker points of the movie. Yeah, I know. I get the reasoning why you don't have to go through it again. I know.
They didn't
get it.
They didn't explain within the context of the universe why he changed to that suit instead of the other one. And you were upset that they didn't explain that better.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was an emotional choice thing, like, look, why the black? Well, because I'm
emo.
Or whatever. I mean, or something. I'm making a statement. I'm trying to say
at least,
whether it was at
least you didn't start, covering his hair over one eye and start doing jazz. And,
I mean, like I'm honoring my Kryptonian heritage. Something.
Yeah. Give us, like literally I said, even a 2-second snippet of the computer in the Kryptonian ship referring to it as the regeneration suit or something.
Yeah. Or Alfred's.
I'm with you. It's a missed opportunity. I think it's nitpicking, though. Personally, I think it's nitpicking.
But that's all. But that's literally what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we're nitpicking.
That's right. That's true.
I'm glad we're having it. I'm glad we have it because it's a superior movie than the theatrical cut.
Am I more satisfied now? 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So,
and can I just end all of it by saying,
wait. We didn't hear Andrew.
No, you go first.
Are you going to change the subject?
Yes, I'm changing.
Okay.
You go.
I'm going to end this conversation by just looking in the camera and saying to everybody, I told you so. Okay. That's that.
All right.
Okay. Andrew, what do you got to say?
We wanted to take the end of this whole thing to talk about something. And if we want to call it off, that's fine because we only have 5 minutes left. But we want to talk about the ability of virtual reality.
Cut the camera away.
The future of virtual.
Cut the camera away. Different episode. That's a different episode.
So, anyways, we are. I just cut Andrew out of the feed. Yeah,
I feel like we can go 10 minutes over and talk about the future of virtual
A
reality.
different episode.
Different episode.
it's got to be a different episode, dude.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's
we're
a
already
whole
at 2 hours.
thing.
That's multiple hours worth of conversation.
I really wanted to talk.
I know.
About this.
So next
Different
week,
episode. Save
you
it.
want to talk
Next
about
week,
VR
let's
next
talk
week?
I'm
Because
fine
that is
with
kind of becoming our new obsession.
Oh man,
Some of us.
really want to talk about this.
Some of us have kind of like been bit by the VR bug, and
We'll talk
it's
about it next
becoming a
week.
thing.
Hold on. So here's the thing. I, for probably at least
Who invited this guy? Who invited
You.
this guy?
at least a
What was I
year,
thinking?
I've been talking to Daniel about like, dude, you need to try VR, and he has been like, oh, that's just a fad.
We got 5 minutes left. Let's just stay on topic. 5 more minutes.
This is gonna take me
Just stay on
20
top.
seconds.
All right,
And,
I'm timing
like,
you. Go.
All right, I was like, this is gonna be a fad. Daniel said. Daniel was like, oh, this is not a big deal. This is gonna go away. Blah 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 blah. But then Daniel got the PSVR, and he was like, okay, dude, I was wrong. This is fucking awesome.
Hey, I didn't say I was wrong. I still think it's a fad and it's going to go away without a doubt. Like, this stuff is definitely going to be at the bottom of a goodwill bin pile somewhere.
All right, that's like 40
years
seconds. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
you
like 40
did it.
seconds. Yeah,
Your
we're good.
video gaming is
Yeah.
VR.
But it is
done.
still.
We're
It's still.
done. We got 5 minutes
totally
left of
badass.
Snyder Cut. 5
Let's
minutes left of
let's
Snyder
talk.
Cut.
Let's we'll do that for
All right,
week,
next
but
week is all about VR.
All right.
All
All
about.
right.
I don't know. About
all
All right.
about VR. Can I talk about VR Troopers?
whose show is this? Who gave him the? I don't.
All right.
All
So
right.
I would say, what do you guys think? Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
I want to see. Let's see the R-rated version of Mrs. Doubtfire. Let's see that on HBO Max.
We're gonna talk about
That's not a thing.
No. Snyder
No.
Cut. Final cut. Snyder Cut.
No, I think this could be a thing with other people, like other franchises.
Yeah, is
might
this gonna
say.
open up?
Yeah, I've been seeing that blow up a lot from
Yeah.
memes as small as Release the Zemo cut to Doubtfire, like the R-rated version.
Well, I guess that's an interesting question. Maybe
We released the Schumacher cut of.
maybe this is
Batman
our
Forever.
final thoughts on this. Is this a slippery slope?
I don't think so.
It started with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, well,
Did
that,
it?
It's,
that was
Did it? Or I think that was like planned. Like
That was its own thing. That was kind
I'm
of
saying the
But that is
trend
true.
of
It
the
could-
trend of the internet
no.
massively
dude.
bullying.
This has been
studios
going
into
on a
doing what
lot
they
longer
want.
than just the last few years, dude.
I'm
you've
all
got
for
but
Richard
it's,
Donner.
I'm saying
I know,
it's,
but
it's
you've got-
amplifying.
It is definitely growing and amplifying. You've got the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. You've got, the X-Files was dead and buried. And then the fans, through the power of the internet and actual mail, convinced Fox to bring it back after they had officially canceled it. Like, fans have a say for sure.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. So
Yeah, but something to this
but it's growing.
extent, I feel like is definitely an unprecedented thing.
now that you got Twitter and
Oh,
yeah,
man.
all that
Look,
stuff.
Disney Plus brought back the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It finished. Because it ended prematurely on Cartoon
Mhm.
Network. They
Yep.
tried finishing it on Netflix. They brought it to Disney Plus and finished the last couple episodes.
So let's
So-
get the
Yeah.
community movie that we were promised. Hashtag 6 seasons in a movie. Okay.
I'm all for
Anyway.
the community speaking into what they want, and actually, like, big industries doing what a large amount of people are wanting. So I have no problem with like the Snyder Cut becoming like a movement of like, dude, if people want an R-rated Mrs. Doubtfire, just give it to us. Like, honestly, as
what
much
that
as,
would
like,
look like. Why would it be
what-
rated R?
Because Robin Williams just ad-libbed for hours on
they
set,
have-
just raunchy, dirty jokes in full
Oh,
Mrs.
yeah.
Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Give me 4
Dude,
hours of Robin Williams dressed as
that
Mrs.
just
Doubtfire doing stand-up.
destroys the whole
Uh,
wholesome point of that movie. Why would
Chris
you do
Columbus.
that?
Well, again, Chris Columbus just has this on the back burner, so it's not he has the extra stuff.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do something fun with it and something
I will
Williams,
say though, give me 4.5 hours of Schumacher, Batman and Robin, or Batman and Forever, whichever one you want. Give me 4 hours of it. I'll watch it.
I'll watch that. I'll watch it.
Right. 4 hours of Bat Nichols, baby.
I got my back card. I never leave home without it.
I would say this. I don't think for most franchises, this is the right approach.
100% agree.
Oh, yeah.
I do not think that this is the right approach for most franchises, but for this particular property, with someone who clearly had a strong vision for not only all of these characters, but the entire universe and the story arc and the building of everything, this is definitely the right move.
That's a good point. That like this is not necessarily okay. Cool, this worked for Snyder Cut. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for everything.
Right? It doesn't.
I am going to go back to the
Doubtfire.
So I am going to go back to the running bet we have between Dan, Christian, and Joe, who cannot make it today, which has not been settled yet.
Never going to happen.
The bet is $100 if the fans will get Disney to redo or undo the Last Jedi.
I would like somebody to go back and watch the official clip, because my understanding of it was the bet was within, was it 2 years, 3 years, however many years, that they will completely erase the sequel trilogy. And that's never going to happen.
They will make the sequel trilogy be irrelevant and non-existent.
Yeah, I
don't.
They
will wipe it out.
Will they potentially just pretend it doesn't exist and do other movies? 100% probably, but they're never going to go and do something to replace those movies. It's not going to happen.
I'm just restating the bet.
Again,
I am not.
Joe's not here, so we're not going to dive into the details.
Yeah,
of
we're not
He
into
might
that.
be watching,
but I'm just saying, it is one of our. That it does stem in from this. Will people like that get their way, or is Disney gonna just say like, no, we already have what we did, and we're gonna build upon it. We're not gonna ignore it, or we're going to whatever we have. We're gonna
that's a completely different avenue, because this was people fighting for something that they knew existed. This is people just fighting because they didn't like what came out,
which is true.
Which is like one for the Zack Snyder Justice League movement. That aspect of it was literally 1/5 of what was actually going on with the hashtag release the Snyder Cut movement. The whole, I didn't like that movie, do better. That was a very small part of what was actually going on and pushing for this movie to come out. So that's why I say, again, this does not work with most franchises.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And it's not the right approach with most franchises. So.
I got a real quick question. Just because I didn't know if you guys talked about it earlier, and then we can head out, but as like my final thoughts stuff is that if anything, I've already watched every single DC movie that's come out. I love equally every single superhero thing, whether it is from like Image Comics, from Invincible to DC and Marvel stuff, obviously the MCU, DCEU. But my major question is, does anyone know what's possibly going to happen with Black Adam? There's been a huge internet buzz about maybe Superman being in it, and then I'm wondering, is it going to be Zack Snyder's Superman? Is it going to be, what version of Superman? Because really, I feel like that movie is going to be like the true test of
The Rock.
What extension?
So Dwayne Johnson is apparently, and this is from multiple different reports, none of them have been confirmed though, so take it with a grain of salt, but from multiple different reports, Dwayne Johnson is 1,000% on board with restoring the Snyder verse and allowing Black Adam to be an essential part of that. And he doesn't want anyone other than Henry Cavill to be the Superman that Black Adam is going against. And The Rock has a ton of influence, ton of pull in Hollywood right now.
Have you seen his eyebrows?
Right.
His eyebrows can move a crowd. Okay.
Let me just point out a little bit of the hilariously poetic irony of the biggest movement of the people moving a studio to do something, then getting the support and allegiance and alignment with
the people's champion.
The people's champion.
Yeah, that's a big
to
thing.
see this happen. That is huge. So I'm very optimistic, Alberto. I'm very optimistic.
I would use the word for me personally, hopeful. I am as hopeful as I could possibly.
And the fact that I think Zack Snyder gave enough of teases, winks, nods, and mentions officially to the multiverse in his movie to make it officially a thing in the DCEU. Like, you got Steppenwolf mentioning the multiverse. You've got the Joker talking at the end about how many times
the fact they officially announced that Robert Pattinson's Batman is on Earth 2. They gave it a concrete place.
And Ezra Miller crosses over with the the WB stuff.
CW.
So, it would not surprise me if this new Superman movie that they're making is also Earth 2.
Yeah, I could see that.
And they kind of go with this Earth 2 world.
Yeah.
And then, like you said earlier, Dan, if they do decide to go with the full Snyderverse, that it's a HBO Max centric,
predominantly.
Yeah,
I could see that happening.
Yeah, so, I'm really excited to see what they did. I feel like ever since Birds of Prey, it's been up and up. Birds of Prey, Justice League. Next is going to be Suicide Squad,
which looks hilariously, ridiculously
amazing,
awesome. Starro. That's a whole other conversation. But
so let's end it on the note. What are we all watching on HBO Max after we watch? What are we all watching?
I don't really.
Alberto, what are you watching right now?
Right.
Or what are you looking forward to? What is the one thing you're looking forward to or watching right now to end it on the note?
Looking forward to Suicide Squad.
Squad.
I am so excited for that. Did you see that cast? Did you see those trailers?
Yeah, the new one looks good.
Mortal Kombat too. That's coming out.
Andrew, are you still on HBO? Are you still you're and your boys? What are you guys watching or what are you looking forward to? Andrew.
On HBO Max?
On HBO Max, yeah. I said plus. Sorry.
There is nothing on HBO Max that my boys are watching.
What are you watching?
They got Ed and Eddie on there. They got
Dexter's Laboratory.
They got the Justice League.
Yeah.
They got
okay,
all sorts of stuff. They got Elmo. I watched Sesame Street.
I mean, my kids are still like very.
Are they too cool for school?
No. They're too young for school. They're 9 years old, and there's probably things that they could watch, but they're just way too
young for school.
They're just really sensitive kids, honestly, and that's where they're at. And so we're respecting that, and like, okay, cool. We're not gonna watch this or that or blah blah blah. So HBO Max for my kids are just not a thing. But
what about yourself then?
For myself, it's just really cool to know that, like, okay, I'm half vaccinated. I have the first dose of Moderna so far, but like, I can watch all of the major releases that, like, I can watch the new Kong and Godzilla movie without having to go to a movie theater, which, like, I love going to movie theaters, but it's just really cool to know that, like, I can do that. And so right now, my wife and I are going through the whole universe of that. And so we are at Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's like our next movie to watch before the movie that just came out. And so, to be honest, we haven't dove very deep into what HBO Max has to offer. And so I'm more at the place of, like, you guys give me recommendations of what I should be doing.
Watchmen.
Yes.
Definitely watch Watchmen.
The director's cut.
No, the series.
Oh yeah, the series is fantastic.
The series.
Okay.
So the Watchmen series.
Yes,
for sure.
Anything else?
Harley Quinn, the animated series.
That's what I was going to mention.
Not really good, but that's really good.
That's what I'm into right now. I'm on season 2 of Harley Quinn, and it is such a
binged the hell out of that. It was really good.
It is just fun. It's a different take on the characters. Not so much, but it's a fun. It's definitely fun, and they have fun with the characters. And if you love superheroes, you'll love the takes. And it's definitely a caricature of the comics, but you'll enjoy it.
It's a lot of fun. It's really good.
Christian, what are you watching on HBO Max?
I'm looking forward to Suicide Squad. That's the next big thing coming out for me.
I am excited about that.
Yeah, it does look cool. So
it looks so cool.
That in the Saints of Newark.
Give me all of the king shark chewing on human skulls. I'm here for that.
And Dan, what is your favorite? What's your we'll end with you.
What's the big thing that I'm watching on HBO Max right now?
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I
told you, I'm halfway through my fourth watch of it right now.
That is
the black and white. I'm watching it in black and white. So,
is there actually an extended scene in the black and white version?
At the end? No, I already skipped ahead because I just couldn't wait. I was like, is this different? Is it different? Is it different? No, it's not.
Hey, Dan, who's going to give you a reach around?
Anyways.
Well, you guys have a great night.
Yes, have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
We'll be back to talk VR next time.
VR next week. It's going to be